never learn the skill set of like, what are you doing, right? You can have 4 dates in a night. In other words, everything comes instantaneously. They have falsely applied the instant gratification model to life fulfillment and career fulfillment. They want it all instantaneously. The problem is life, relationships, career are not destinations. Like, look, I found the job I love. That's not how it works. It's not a scavenger hunt. I'm looking for the job that will. No, it doesn't work that way. It's a journey. It's the same with love. It's like, I found love. No, you didn't. You work hard every single day to stay in love. It's a journey. It's as if they're standing at the foot of a mountain. They know exactly what they want. They can see the summit. What they don't see is the mountain. Literally. I talked to some recent college grads who are in their entry-level jobs on a regular basis, and I'll ask them things like, how's it going? And they'll say, yeah, I think I'm going to quit.
Executives will bluff their way through the meeting.
I'm not making an impact.
Things are measurable.
I'm like, you've been here 8 months, right?
We're busy.
And this is the problem. They see it as destination. I'm not making an impact. I hear it all the time. But they don't even know what that means, impact. Yes, we all want to make an impact. What kind of impact? What do you want to do? How do you want to contribute to the world? This is what vision is. This is what why is. It's become generic and abstract. The problem is they're wafting around. They're looking for the right, they'll go from job to job to job, hoping that the next one sticks. They go from relationship to relationship, hoping that the next one is the love that I've been looking for. They don't know how to ask for help, and it makes them feel even worse because they can't find the thing that they're looking for. Maybe it's me.
Because when you met her, you didn't love her.
So you have an insecure generation that doesn't have coping mechanisms, that wants everything resolved and resolved now.
The love happens.
I have a thought, let me just send a text, as opposed to, let me wait an hour when I'm done with lunch with you, and then I'll send my text, for example. And then we get to the fourth and most egregious of the four observations.
If you were to go to the gym,
environment.
It's like exercise, right?
We're now taking this wonderful, smart, idealistic, ambitious, hardworking, good group of people that were dealt a bad hand. And we're putting them in corporate environments that do not care about those.
Clearly there's no results, can't be measured,
right?
It must not be.
We have, for some reason, our work world has changed over the past 20 and 30 years. We are suffering the side effects of business theories left over from the 80s and 90s. And they are bad for people, and they are bad for business. Let me give you an example. The concept of shareholder supremacy was a theory proposed in the late 1970s.
Skip a day or two.
It was popularized in the 80s and 90s. It is now standard form today. You talk to any public company and you ask them their priority and they say maximize shareholder value.
It's not about
really. That's like a coach prioritizing the needs of the fans over the needs of the players. How are you going to build a winning team with that model? But that's normal today. We don't even perceive it as broken or damaged or wrong or outdated. Remember, the 80s and 90s were boom years with relative peace and a kinder, gentler Cold War. Nobody was practicing hiding under their desks in school anymore. We are no longer in those times. These are no longer boom years. These are no longer peaceful times, and those models cannot work today.
Those things are like going to the dentist. They're
another one.
Important. They're good for reminding us or getting us
mass layoffs,
learning new lessons,
using someone's livelihood to balance the books. Right? It's so normal in America today that we don't even understand how broken and how damaging it is, not only to human beings, but to business. You know, companies talk about how they want to build trust and cooperation, and they announce a round of layoffs. Do you know the quickest way to destroy trust and destroy cooperation in a business, literally in one day? Lay people off, and everyone gets scared. Right? Can you imagine sending someone home to say, honey, I can no longer provide for our family because the company missed its arbitrary projections this year? And forget about the people who lost their job. Think about the people who kept their jobs. Because every single decision a company makes is a piece of communication. And the company has just communicated to everybody else, this is not a meritocracy. We don't care how hard you work or how long you've work here. If we miss our numbers and you happen to fall on the wrong side of the spreadsheet, I'm sorry, we cannot guarantee employment. In other words, we come to work every day afraid.
Little things that anyone by
And we're asking our youngest generation to work in environments where how would any of us ever stand up and admit, I made a mistake?
that won't work.
We're constantly being told, you have to be vulnerable. Leaders are vulnerable. What does that even mean? It doesn't mean walk around crying. I'm vulnerable.
Saying good morning to someone.
No, what vulnerability means is you create an environment in which someone feels safe enough to raise their hand and said, I don't know what I'm doing. You've given me a job and I haven't been trained to do it. I need help. I made a mistake. I screwed something up.
To a meeting, we're rushing. We go, how are you? Not good.
I'm scared. I'm worried.
If you ask
All of these things no one would ever admit inside a company because it puts a target on your head in case there's another round. And so we keep it to ourselves. And how can a company ever do well if nobody's ever willing to admit they made a mistake, that's scared, or they don't know what they're doing? And so we've literally created cultures in which every single day everybody comes to work and lies, hides, and fakes. And we're asking our youngest generation to work and succeed and find themselves and build their confidence and overcome their addiction to technology and build strong relationships at work. We're asking them to do this, and these are the environments we've created. We keep saying to them, you're the future leaders. We're the leaders now.
The people will think of each other.
We're in control. What are we doing? This is what empathy means. It means if there's an entire generation struggling, maybe it's not them. It's like, the only thing that the common factor in all my failed relationships?
We'll fight
Me.
internally. We'll bicker with each other, but nobody's going to hurt.
Same thing.
Anything from the outside
Well, we just can't get the right performance out of our people.
Maybe it's you.
How do you create
Right? It's not a generation. It's not them. They're not difficult or hard to understand. They're human beings like the rest of us, trying to find their way, trying to work in a place where they feel that someone cares about them as a human being. By the way, that's what we all want. In other words, it's not even generational.
You could have ever imagined achieving.
It's all of us. This is the practice of empathy. That if we're struggling to communicate to someone, if we're struggling to help someone be at their natural best, I'm tired of people saying to me, how do I get the best out of my people? Really? That's what you want? They're like a towel, you just wring them. How can I get the most out of them?
And unbelievable.
No, how do I help my people be at their natural best? Right? We're not asking these questions. We are not practicing empathy. We have to start by practicing empathy and relate to what they may be going through. And it will profoundly change the decisions we make. It will profoundly change
over
the
the
way
long
we
term,
see the world.
the traditional metrics will go up.
Someone's driving to work.
Market share.
You're driving to
Traditional
work.
metrics will
And
go
someone
up,
wants to
and
cut
the
into your
work
lane.
will go up.
What do? You
stole that.
pull your car
You'll
up.
be able to weather
Do you let them?
hard
But I would
times
love
better
it.
because the people
Most of us pull our cars up and go like this. You wait your turn.
over the long
Now
term.
let's practice empathy. I don't know. Maybe they've been out of work for 6 months. Maybe they had trouble getting the kids out to school this morning, and now they're running late for a really important interview, and they just have to get to this interview, and they're going to cut into our lane.
People will turn down.
Or maybe they're just a bastard. I don't know.
Over the long term, all the traditional is just fine.
If you take a
But that's the point.
Only the short term.
We don't know.
I'm going to say though,